Tyler from HPI here to talk to you about the latest in our factory frame reinforcement kits. This package is for 63 to 72 C10 long box trucks. That's right, long box trucks, we did not forget about you. So this package is designed specifically for 127-inch wheelbase trucks, and we've incorporated everything that we've learned in the short box version and turned it into this offering here. So if you want to increase the rigidity and strength of your chassis to match performance suspension and higher horsepower, this is the kit for you. Let's talk about some features here. We've switched to a CNC formed and welded front and rear cross member design that's going to maximize the clearance both between the ground and the frame, keeping everything tucked up from the bottom of the chassis, and below the top of the chassis, maximizing cab clearance. You're not going to run into any floor issues with this design. It's stronger than previous tube-only versions, and we've incorporated all of the same great features. Included in the kit are our tried and tested motor mounts for the front of your chassis that are going to allow any small block, big block, or LS combination to clear the firewall in your truck, as well as an adjustable transmission cross member that's going to let any GM combo fit in here without any issue. On top of that, we've now allowed dual 3.5-inch exhaust to be tucked up from the bottom with no joints, pass-throughs, or connections, with the included trick exhaust weld-on hangers and mounting points. You can run up to 3.5-inch exhaust and not have any clearance issues whatsoever. That's pretty awesome. Best part of all, this kit is 100% bolt-in. That's right, bolt-in. And I'm not talking about, oh, a little bit of welding here, a little bit of welding there. This is bolt-in. You could do this in a parking lot if you wanted to. And we're going to show you how. Okay, so we're ready to start install on our C10 long box frame bracing kit. And to do that, it's a lot easier to do with the cab and box off the truck. We've had some customers in the past do it with the box and cab on, but you're going to be grinding and popping rivets out from underneath. So if you're at the stage where you can do it with the frame bare, that's probably going to be a lot easier for you. And it is a bolt-in kit, so we don't have to worry too much about affixing the chassis to a rigid table or fixture. You're just going to want to support the frame so that it doesn't move while you're working on it. First step here, we're going to go ahead and unbolt our trailing arms and lower those out of the way. Use a jack because there will be a little bit of weight on those from the diff. You can take your diff right out of the way if you want, but we're just going to leave ours sitting here. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to remove the factory trailing arm cross member, the support braces that are on the long boxes, and the transmission cross member, because that won't be reused. While you're in there, you can go ahead and get rid of any exhaust hangers and bracketry for lines and clamps that you won't be using on your install. Now we'll go ahead and show you which rivets that you're going to be grinding off. All right, so on the trailing arm cross member, we're going to go ahead and grind the head off of this rivet here and remove this bolt. Yours may be a rivet, I can't be certain on that, but those got to go. And then the 3 on the bottom, those are going to have to get ground off from the bottom side. Pop your rivets out. This brace has 2 rivets here and 2 rivets up here. That'll have to get out of the way because this cross member swivels to get out. And then moving on up here, we're going to take this cross member out. So we've got these rivets to get rid of and the corresponding ones on the bottom. And then lastly, we're going to take these 2 rivets out of the front cab mounts because those will be shared with our new C-channel boxing plates. Okay, so we've already gone ahead and removed the factory transmission cross member and trailing arm cross member by grinding or cutting the heads of the rivets off and punching those out. Now we have to go and install the inner C-channel plates that are the mounting location for the frame bracing kit. So to do so, these plates simply slide inside the frame, starting at the front body mount rivet locations. Now, these plates have a couple additional holes on the front plates and on the back plate that you need to drill. So here's a simple trick to mark that location. Simply take your plate, overlap it on the top flange, pin a couple of the bolts in. The remaining bolt hole can then be marked with a Sharpie or other marking device. You can remove these, take the plate, step it onto the bottom side, align it, and mark the holes the same. Now we could go ahead and drill out those marked holes. Okay, so after we've marked and drilled the additional holes for all 4 C-channel plates, we're going to go ahead and install them with the included 3/8 by 1.25" hardware. Now, make sure you put these in loose for now. We're going to tighten them after we've installed the frame brace assembly. Okay, so we've got our C-channels in loosely bolted in place, and I've got the bracing assembly, the main assembly is sitting on the floor inside the frame. Now I'm going to go ahead, and I can do this by myself. We're going to lift up the front into position and then followed by the rear, or you can have someone help you. Now, one thing you might notice is that all of these C-channel plates have 2 bolt locations for each position. And that's because on these trucks, if you're running a lowered truck, usually 4 inches or more, you're going to notice that your wheelbase, if you're using trailing arm rear suspension, starts to look a little different, look a little off. As you lower those trailing arms, that's actually pushing your rear axle rearwards. So if you're running 4 to 6 inch drop or airbags in the back, you'll probably want to take the whole assembly and install it in the forward holes, which is going to allow those trailing arms to recenter your diff in the visually correct location in the wheel well. If you want a stock location, you're going to use the rear holes. So we simply lift this up into place, get it aligned with the rear set of holes. I'm going to put a bolt in to pin it, and loosely install that for now. And followed by this side, and then we'll move to the back and lift it into position. Okay, now that I got the front of the kit lifted up into place and loosely bolted, I'm going to take the rear, swing it up, and get this bolted in. And at this point, using the 3/8 by 1 inch grade 8 hardware, I'm going to go ahead and install hardware in the remaining mounting locations for the K-brace assembly and finish tightening all of the hardware that mounts the frame brace to the C-channel plates. Okay, so once you have your kit bolted to the C-channel plates, before you tighten the C-channel plates to the frame fully, you want to make sure that it is centered because there is some slotted adjustment there. So we're just going to take a quick measurement here. I'm just going from the inside of the frame to the edge of the trailing arm bracket. I've got 10 inches here. Over on this side, I have 10 inches as well. And then I'm going to do the same to center the front, and I can go ahead and tighten all the remaining hardware that installs the C-channel plates to the factory frame. And at this point, all of the hardware now will be tightened, putting the kit and the C-channel plates into your factory chassis. Okay, so now that you've seen how the kit actually bolts up into position and the C-channel plates get installed, we're going to talk about 2 other things. One of them being drive shafts. Now, in pretty much all engine transmission combinations for the long box wheelbase, you're going to be using a 2-piece drive shaft. And the factory had hanger locations in 2 different spots. One being a pillow block style in head of the trailing arm cross member, and the other being the eyelet style hanging out on a bracket behind that cross member. So we've given you both options. The first being the mounting location in the cross member here, and for the other style of drive shaft, we've included this extension bracket that bolts in with the supplied 3/8 by 1 hardware and gives you the rear mounting location. Now, take a note on this, that you're gonna have to use the eyelet style inline bolt hole drive shaft hanger bearing for both. And we would recommend you get one of the aftermarket billet ones. They're stronger, they're gonna take a lot more stress than the factory style, but you can use that hanger bearing for both drive shafts. On top of that, we'll talk here about our transmission cross member. So this transmission cross member that's included can be installed on the top side forward or rearward for a longer transmission like a 4L80 series, and can also be installed in, say, a T56. You may need to install it in the lower position. That's going to allow you to adjust that tail shaft angle and potentially shim it down if you have to. There's so much variance in length and height of the mount to drive shaft center line that you may have to shim this cross member, but it's very simple to do so. So included in your kit as well is our motor mount stands that are going to allow you to put a small block, big block, or LS combination in your C10 chassis. And these things are actually super easy to install. You're going to unbolt the factory motor mount perch that is in your chassis, whether it be a 6-cylinder or V8 stand, and our mounts simply sit on top of the frame and utilize all 3 upper bolt holes and 2 bolt holes in the lower cross member. Now I will point out there is a few tolerance and variance changes in these lower cross members. They use these all the way up into the 80s, into 87 trucks. So depending on which cross member you have, you may find yourself drilling 1 hole in the bottom, but that's okay. You can position it with the other bolts. One thing to point out on these mounts as well is if you want to maximize your engine setback, once you have your drivetrain being mocked up or installed in place, you can go ahead and leave these 5 bolts loose and actually slide those motor mounts back or ahead to give yourself some fine-tuning adjustment for different valve cover, distributor, or coil clearance issues that you may have in your combination. So once you get these bolts all in, get your motor position, you can go ahead and tighten all that hardware. All right, so to complete our installation, we just have to bolt your trailing arms back in. The lower hole is the factory trailing arm location, and when you find yourself lowering your truck 4 to 6 inches or airbags, you may want to go up a couple holes to correct pinion angle. Other than that, we're complete. So there you have it, a frame reinforcement package for your long box C10. Who doesn't want that? If you are running a leaf spring truck and want to retain the leaf springs in your long box, you can order a custom version from us without the trailing arm brackets. Otherwise, you can get your C10 long box frame bracing kit under part number 770821 online right now. Thanks.